Things were not going well for me. I'm new in town. I had no money and nowhere to go. There was a constant fear that I would end up hungry and on the street. But I was surprised at how I felt. All this shit inspired me anyway. Fear often drove me to take the train and go to my hometown. But ambition said, "You can't screw up. It's not over yet." A friend of mine lived out of town in the middle of nowhere. I basically came to live with him, but I didn't want to live in the middle of nowhere. That's not why I came here. And every day there usually ended in a drunken binge. I'm a lover of it, but that's not the point of my life. I don't remember how, but I did a job and I had some money. Enough to rent a room with a roommate and get the hell out of here. My new landlady is an arrogant older woman. She thought everyone was a total loser, which she kept hinting at in various ways. She didn't say it outright, but she had 1,000 convincing reasons for it. Screw her, I thought. I'll lock myself in a room and she's gone. But the most unusual thing that could happen in such a case happened. She had a daughter. Well, I wouldn't call her beautiful, but she's got a hell of an attraction. I don't even know how to describe it. She was so unassuming and skinny, but for some reason I was so freaking attracted to her. I didn't like her at all. She had all the traits of her mother: arrogance, impatience with people, no desire to understand anyone. They were only interested in their own interests. And despite the fact that, judging by the apartment, they had no money to rent a room to a guy with a young daughter, they still had a simple lust for money. It was simple and honest. They didn't love anybody but themselves. Anyway, I was very surprised at this peculiarity of the people of this town. As I realized later, everybody here thinks about money and preys on it. I was attracted to this girl and repulsed at the same time. I wanted to understand and started spending a lot of time in the kitchen trying to catch her and talk to her. She was easy to contact, but just as easy to suddenly run away. On the street, she avoided me, but I realized it was only a matter of time. And so it happened. As time went on, she started to stay in touch longer. I didn't understand myself, what I wanted from her. It couldn't be just sex. I didn't have much of a problem with it. I mean, I had a problem with it at the time, but it wasn't about sex with her anyway. I wouldn't stand for her arrogance and her constant taunting of me for being such a pauper. It wasn't taunting, though. She wasn't laughing at it. She was showing me my place. Her happiness that I do not know how to take offense, I just accepted the fact and did not argue. She is right. But in my heart I hated her for it. And since I spent a lot of time in the kitchen in the evenings, I was mocked by her mother, a lady with big tits. Strange that her daughter had almost no tits. She was skin and bones. But the good thing was that her mother often went away to the countryside. We'd go there to do our sad jobs, and it was always very good news that the lady wouldn't be there tonight. But there was another side to it. Dani, that was the girl's name, sat more in her room and came out reluctantly, and it was hard for me to lie there with the realization that we were in the same apartment with a girl I was attracted to. But that evening, Dani came into my room for the first time. She was wearing her usual homemade short robe, which she had apparently been wearing for a long time. I was very surprised, because it had always been difficult for her to even talk to me first. Not because she wasn't sociable, but because I was a plebeian in her eyes. "You said you were studying languages. Translate what it says here." I jumped up from the bed and took the piece of paper she handed me. I tried to understand, but my mind was elsewhere. I walked off to the back of the room as if drawing her in, and she followed me obediently. And then I sat on the bed, and she did the same. Well, that's a start, I thought. Now we have to give something away, and I strained to translate some sense of what I'd written. We were chatting quite nicely. She was somehow even different in attitude. Suddenly it hit me that she was here for something else. Man, what are these foreign women thinking? Yes, we spoke the same language, but we lived all our lives in completely different worlds and cities and even countries. I don't know what force told me that, but somehow I knew exactly why she was here. But it was also clear to me that she would not give me willingly. She wouldn't let herself with someone like me. So I went all in. I just took her firmly by the waist so she wouldn't be able to break free. Her body tensed, and she started to pull away from me. I realized now that it was essentially violence. But I'd never raped anyone, and I'd always gotten it. I wasn't bad at all. And it's not my game. I need feedback. And now, strangely enough, even though she resisted, she was smiling. That's the only reason I kept going. Or maybe she smiles when she's angry, I wondered, because the smile really wasn't natural. But there was one thing. As soon as I loosened my grip, she loosened hers. It was physically telling me it was okay to move on. So I made another move, and so on until I was on top of her. All the while, she was scolding me. She scolded me quietly, but she promised to scream. She was either smiling or grinning, trying to stop me from making the next move, but in the moment loosening her grip so I could make another move. My doubts almost dissipated when I realized she was completely wet, and she gave herself to me as soon as I reached my goal. How hungry she was! She told me later that she hadn't had anyone for a year and a half. She looked at me with eyes full of gratitude, that I had broken her and done this to her. It was a completely different person, filled with love and reciprocity. I can say that my first rape was a success. I'll tell you a secret, I tried with one girl afterwards as well, hoping that she wanted to just break. But it ended sadly. She took great offense to me. I did stop in time, though, and nothing happened. But this Dani turned out to be still the same Dani in the end. After that, she just ran away to her place, closed herself off, and after that, we socialized like nothing happened. She was still just as contemptuous of me, only she wasn't shy with the taunts anymore. The second time we had, it happened when her mother was away. And this time I went into her room and almost immediately brazenly raped her. It was two very different people, during sex and any other time. I thought she even liked me during sex. But then she wanted me out of the room, so I just had to accept the rules of the game. I raped her every chance I got. I realized it was her fetish, and fetishes come from childhood. Probably if we had been with her longer, she would have told me her interesting childhood story. I'm an adventurous guy, and after a couple months, I could afford better conditions. No, I'm not afraid of worse conditions. I've had different things in my life, but I'll never give up the best right now. And I walked away from that abusive relationship. If you look at it from the outside, I was raping her, but in fact, she was raping me. Yes, she skillfully used her attraction to satisfy her fetishes. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon!